This is Kathy Biehl of EmpowermentUnlimited.net with Astro-Insight for the week of August 26th, 2024. How y'all doing? How'd you make it through last week? We're going to see some of the playing out of that dynamic Aquarius full moon with the T-square to Uranus this week. Details in a moment. The workings of Jupiter and Saturn squaring, the influences of incredible expansion and containment, fighting with each other, forcing each to find a point of compromise that is with us to a lesser extent for the rest of the year in its current form, but not as exactly as it was on the 29th. This week, we do have an awful lot of activity leading up to some major shifts, and there is a bit of a whiplash effect, pronounced, actually, indication of moving ahead while also heading backwards, going in two directions at once, but the going backwards part is for the point of cleaning up a lot of things well and for good. And that is collectively as well as individually. Some of the benefits of the Aquarius full moon, of whatever the startling, awakening, liberating energies were that came to a head for you at the beginning of last week. This week, we have opportunities. Well, not even opportunities. We have situations of getting on board with them, seeing how being freed from one thing is leading us to something that we really want, breakthroughs in connections, relationships, money, situations, stuff that's been unstable, flowing naturally into new and supportive and perhaps resource-funded situations, with Venus in the boundary, protective, healthy sign of Virgo, the self-improvement zone of the zodiac, in a trine or an easy flow to Uranus in Taurus, which she rules. And this is a callback to the clash that the two of them had at the beginning of August. So something that you got hit in the head about, or something that was forced into change or liberation, or you got broken from something, or a switch went down in a certain relationship, which has been going on for a lot of people. The next phase, the easy growth, the personal benefit, is flowing now on the 27th. Again, a callback to August 2nd. By the end of the month, we have some discomforting nudges telling us we got to move on that. Move towards the liberation, move toward the new way of being, take action that is out of our comfort zone, because Mars, planet that rules how we push ourselves forward, will be in a semi-sextile with Uranus. So that's part of the brackets of the week. There's a bigger piece I'll weave into it in a second. In the middle of it, Venus's journey is continuingly interesting to us because she brings us face up against ways that we've deluded ourselves, magical thinking, expectations of something that really have no chance in hell of coming to fruition down here on planet Earth. Venus opposes Neptune on the 28th. On her way out of the sign, Neptune is, for the moment, the planet of latest degree in the sign, and this is his last job as gatekeeper of the end of the zodiac. And this could also be getting a glimpse of something that you wish you could have down here, an image, a desire for, here's an ideal. Is there a way I can somehow weave this into boring, old, mundane reality? And she does this just as she is leaving Virgo for her home of Libra on the 29th. Libra is one of her signs. It's the intellectual approach to Venusian matters. So this rules how we speak to each other, the role of words and beautiful phrasings and social niceties, being kind to each other, giving the appearance of getting along. These are social norms, things we do out of common courtesy. There's always a question with this of, do you mean it? Is it something you're just doing? Is there a manipulative undertone to it? Venus in Libra also puts a lot of emphasis on the arts, harmony, grace, beauty, how nice things look, but also how well we get along. Social justice, fairness could be themes with her in this, especially now. And as soon as she goes through the door, she meets the gatekeeper of the entrance door in his last act for a while as the entrance door gatekeeper, and that is Pluto, still at the very beginning of Aquarius at this point. Venus and Pluto are the two rulers of desire and also money. So something could intensify. Your desire to have a certain something in your life could get deeper and deeper. You could have a compulsive attraction to something. And keep in mind that Venus earlier in the week freed you up from something and made it possible, opened a door and went, this is a fun way to go. And so maybe you dive in and go, ooh, this is kind of scary, but something in me wants it. It's like the forbidden fruit in Rocky Horror Picture Show. There could also be a stripping back, a cutting away, a paring down, an intensifying, and a decision that I don't want everything. I only want things that have deep meaning to me. Also possible with this, a stripping back of certain friendships, certain relationships, certain desires, certain pursuits. This could also bring, for people who are creative, a moment of or a stretch of, I got to really, really focus on what's most important to me and doubling down and getting very, very serious about that. In the midst of this whole week will have a feeling of being suspended in time. The earlier part of the month, in fact, the last couple of months, have had a flurry of energy and a feeling like things are going faster than we could possibly imagine. Can it get quicker? Can there be things maybe more crazy, more hectic, more insane? Mercury is slowly moving into his direct station. And when this is happening, things happen like you're floating. Well, you could say down the rabbit hole, you're Alice and you're seeing things just kind of float by you like, oh, isn't that interesting? Stuff could happen with a lack of speed that makes it possible for you to see what's been going on, to pick up some last-minute snarls, loose details, misunderstandings, last-minute business. If you, like me, have fallen prey to, oh man, I really have to clean things up. And if you've been throwing out papers and discovering what the top of tables and desks look like, raise his hand, you may find things coming to a close. Or you may go, oh, I have a few things I want to do here, but I'm not going to be a maniac. I am not going to be a lunatic. I'm just going to do this. And sometimes when things are moving more slowly, you detect something that you just glossed over the first time. Mercury stations direct on the 28th. It will be a few days before we feel him moving, so this slow vibe will continue. He is stationing direct in the sign of Leo. It'll take him a little while to get back into Virgo. And that starts the sense of, oh, okay, now we're going to move forward. Except not entirely, because there's a double whammy that happens on September 1st that's going to yank our attention backwards. So Mercury retrograde has taken us over things, places, situations, people from the past, recent, distant, whatever. And he's moving forward. So we think, okay, now it's time to start heading to the future. But while we're heading to the future, two things are making us go, there's some old stuff to clean up. Uranus stations retrograde on the 1st. and is going to basically sit at the degree of the full moon T-square to him for some time. He's not going far, but he's just hanging out there for a long time, which will give us moment after moment after moment to re-confront, re-experience, re-examine all of the twists and turns that we have been through, particularly since July 15th, which, interestingly, ties to the discomfort that Mars is going to put us through when he, right before Uranus stations retrograde on the 31st, has that nudging, deal with this, you really don't want to, pushing you out of your comfort zone. That one calls back to July 15th. And you may think about things that happened at that point in your life. And there were like a couple of big ones on the news also. That's when the Republican National Convention started for one big thing. It's also when the documents retention espionage case got dismissed. Maybe there will be action on that. Who knows? It's also when there was a shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania. Maybe there will be more to the story coming out about that. More importantly, out of all this, the other cosmic change agent, Pluto, leaves his brief foray in the sign of Aquarius, where we have been experiencing lately in very sped up fashion the wonders of coming together as a collective. We've seen many examples of that, particularly in the political news. Pluto moves back into the sign of Capricorn on September 1st. He will not move out until November 19th. He doesn't go any further than the last degree of Capricorn. So this means that between now and the middle of November, or between September 1st and the middle of November, every time a body changes signs, it has a meeting right before it makes the exit. It has a meeting with Pluto, shedding something, refocusing something, intensifying something. This is going to be a period of ramping up Pluto's time in Capricorn. He's been in the sign since January 26th, 2008. I know exactly where I was when that happened. I remember what the air felt like. It was very strange. I was actually working a temp job on, isn't this funny, Wall Street. And my partner was in the process of dying, which he managed to do the next day, which I mention not for sympathy ploys, but to point out some of what this has been about. It's been about structures and infrastructures dying, changing, crumbling, revelations coming. You know, there are people out there who are fomenting a lot of panic about, oh my God, Pluto's going to be in Capricorn at the time of the U.S. election. This means we're going to have some kind of old guard thing. No. It means we're having our final clearing out of the institutional rot and no longer working that's been going on. There's also been a big issue of people no longer agreeing to the ground rules, agreeing on the ground rules with Pluto and Capricorn. So that's going to all hit a fevered pitch, but it's one last time. And then on the 18th of November, Pluto will move into Aquarius, which it will be in until 2044. So this is the last visit, and in your own life, just pay attention to what starts to come back up. Like, I thought this was finished. There's something more I have to deal with involving my own foundation, my own goals, my own relationship to financial security maybe, or who I'm able to provide for, or ancestral issues. There are lots of things it could be. Or was my relationship to the government? Pluto's time in Capricorn, particularly in recent years, particularly once it started having its 7-point square with Uranus from 2012 to 2015, Pluto has been showing a lot of people how they handed power over to the government. And I have heard from multiple people that they abdicated their authority. And there has been a much more visible, greater, widespread, common person attention to government with Pluto in the late degrees of Capricorn. So it would make sense during this of all elections that we'll all be really focused on what that means. Okay, so it's not doom and gloom. It's not determinative. It does not mean that some old guard takes over the government or that the oligarchs, plutocrats, whatever you want to call them, win. It means we'll be grappling with it. Okie dokie. Lots of stuff. Homing thought of the week. Show me how this benefits me. Song of the week. Take One Last Look by Tom Waits. And the image of the week is setting out on a road trip and realizing, 20 minutes in maybe, that you might have forgotten something, turning around to go home to get it. I'll have more in my Astro-Insight for the month of September, which will be up by early in the week. I'm Kathy Biehl, a professional astrologer with more than 30 years' experience. Visit my site, empowermentunlimited.net, to sign up for my mailing list and get a Jupiter in Gemini quick reference guide to download as a thank you for subscribing, and book a session with me. I'm doing a political astrology live on Annette Dion's Spirit Talk podcast on her YouTube channel at 3 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. I have lots of bonus content at patreon.com/Kathy Biehl, including currently at the 2x bonus insight level, an article talking about Neptune and Pluto traveling harmoniously from the beginning of September into the middle of November. And I'm really grateful to the people who support my work there. I host the show Celestial Compass on Om Times Radio and TV on the first and third Monday of every month at 5 p.m. Eastern. I also host lively conversation on Facebook at the page Empowerment Unlimited and in the group The Astro-Insight Lounge. I post on Instagram and Threads at @KA Biehl and on YouTube at the Professional Aquarian channel. Talk to you next week.